I'm going to forward. So I want to welcome all of you to Grit Community. And today we have an incredible partnership with BreakWell. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Tara Kraus, who is the founder and CEO of BreakWell.
Hello, everyone. We are so excited to be here to kick off a self-care series with Grit today. So I am Tara Kraus, as she said, the founder of BreakWell, and we help employers show their employees that they care about them. And today we have one of BreakWell's experts with us. Her name is Carrie Ball, and she is here to talk about digestion and nutrition. So I will let her take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So as Tara mentioned, my name is Carrie Ball, and I work in the area of functional medicine, functional nutrition, holistic health, alternative medicine, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different ways that I describe the area that I work in. And the biggest thing that I see, and that's why I'm excited to talk to you today, is that the big focus of my practice is digestion as the underlying root cause of so many health issues that we have. So we're going to dive into that. But before we do that, I want to introduce myself a little bit more so that you know a little bit about my background and why I do what I do. So first of all, I have a little bit of a unique background. This isn't something that I have done forever. So I started out my career as a CPA, and I did that for about 17 years. Working, the big four corporate accounting firms, doing public accounting, spent some time in other sizable corporations in the controller CFO role. So spent a lot of time in that busy go-go work world. Also, I'm a wife, I have 2 kids. And so throughout my career, I had lots of different health struggles or health symptoms. And over the years, I had found that the conventional medical model or the allopathic medicine world of, surgeries and pharmaceuticals, they just weren't fixing my problems. And they just didn't have any more to offer me other than just suppressing my symptoms. But the root cause of the problems were still there. And then we're leading to more health issues. And so I got introduced to the holistic health world or the functional medicine world, which actually got to the root cause of all these symptoms that I was feeling and actually fixed my problems. And so fast forward, I, dove into this area and have a passion for helping people restore their health and really get their life back. Most people look at me and they kind of scratch their head and they think going from accounting to the functional medicine, functional nutrition, world just seems so different. But, when you think about it, it's really the same analytical skill set. Those of you that may be familiar with the accounting or financial world, you understand that everything has to balance, right? Numbers have to balance. You've got your debits, you've got your credits. At the end of the day, everything has to balance. And it's really that way in the body. And so when the body is not in balance, kind of like if your numbers or your books are not in balance, you really got to dig in and start problem solving to figure out where is the imbalance and get the body back into balance. So in my practice, I will tell you the number one complaint that I hear is I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I'm exhausted. I live on caffeine all day long. I don't know if that's you, but that was me for way too many years. And I will tell you that if you need energy, you're in the right place because we are going to talk about how to get more energy. Digestion is a really complex system, and it requires a ton of energy to perform. And so when one piece of the digestive system is not working right, it's going to put a burden on the whole system. So more energy is being required and being tied up in digestion. So digestion can be a major energy suck or a major energy drain. And it's something that most people don't think about. In fact, you can still have digestive problems and not feel any symptoms, which I know is something that most people think is crazy. But it's very true. So let's dive in. I want to make sure, first of all, that you all have the worksheet that I think Tara dropped in the chat. It might have been sent out ahead of time. that's from one of my programs, and we're going to use that to guide our discussion today. I think it's a great takeaway for you to have for later, because we're going to talk about a lot of things, and a lot of people like to take notes on it. We're going to talk about a lot of tips and tricks, and so it'll be really good for you to have that for something to reference later. Okay, let me jump in here. So digestion, so good digestion, I should say, is the key to optimal health. And it's probably understood that as a nutritionist, I have a focus on food. But like it says here, you can be eating the most nutrient-dense diet possible. And if you're not digesting it well, you are going to be malnourished and you're going to be at risk for disease. I don't know if you know it, but a majority of diseases, almost all diseases, can be traced back to some form of a nutrient deficiency. And so if you can't get nutrients into your cells, your body is going to suffer. That's what you run on. We run on nutrients. We need energy for all of our bodily functions, and nutrients are energy. Nutrients in our cells, that's what gives us energy. That's fuel for our body to run all day long. And that's foundational, to life, for living. Our bodies give us many signs, many symptoms that something isn't right. And our body is always talking to us. The problem is we just have to slow down enough to notice it, to listen, and to know what it means, and not to ignore it or suppress the symptom. I always say that, symptoms are kind of like the check engine light that comes on, that warning light. And it tells us there's something not right. We need to dig deeper. So like I mentioned, digestion is super complicated. There's so many places it can go wrong. When we refer to the gut, we're referring to many organs, and we're going to go over the organs that are involved in digestion today. We're going to talk about what can go wrong, and we're going to talk about some of the signs and symptoms that you may experience when things are going wrong, as well as some holistic tips to help you improve your digestion, things that you can implement now. So at the top of your worksheet, you'll see where it says, how is digestion supposed to work? And it sounds really, really simple, right? The goal of digestion is to reduce food to molecules so small that the nutrients can be absorbed and used by the cells of the body. Very, very simple. But as you're going to learn, it's really very, very complicated. All right. So as we get into this worksheet, I'm going to refer to the worksheet. And as we go through here, I want you to speak up. I want to make this more interactive. And so if you have questions, please throw them out as we go through here. As we work through this worksheet, please, speak up and throw out your suggestions, your answers. We're going to kind of test your knowledge, I should say, as we go through here. So as we start, you see it says underneath that there's a word box, I should say first at the top there. As we're testing your knowledge, I thought it would be nice to give you some answers to choose from. So that's where that word box is. So underneath the word box, we start in with how digestion works. Digestion only works when the body is in what kind of a state? Throw it out, your answers. Any ideas?
Relaxed.
Parasympathetic.
Yes, right. So that's the word. Yes. So parasympathetic means relaxed and calm. Exactly. So this is why it's important to sit, to relax, and then to enjoy your meal. If you're eating on the go, if you're standing up, if you're looking at a screen, either a big screen like a TV or a small screen like your phone, let's say you're reading or you're upset, you're distracted, it's really going to be hard to digest your food. I don't know about you, but I struggle with all those things. I feel like when I'm eating, I am doing something else. We're not parasympathetic. We are the opposite, which is sympathetic, which means we're stimulated. And it can also be referred to as fight or flight. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term before, but fight or flight means that your body is sensing that there's a danger, that it either needs to fight the danger, flee the danger. And it can be a perceived danger. If you think about it, in today's world, we don't have a lot of true physical dangers, threats for our lives like we did back when we were hunters and gatherers and we may be running from, an animal. But we have a lot of perceived dangers where our body is perceiving stress or perceiving that we're in danger in that fight or flight. And so our body has this innate intelligence, and body, its job is to keep you alive. That's its number one job, is to keep you alive. And so in order to do that, your body is going to start prioritizing where it puts its energy. So energy gets prioritized to your brain and your heart. Those are the body's top priorities to keep you alive, right? Basic heart, brain, they've got to be functioning for you to be alive. So when you're in that fight or flight and your body is trying to keep you alive, it's prioritizing brain and heart. So the brain is going to send a signal to your gut to shut down the stressors. And what happens is it says direct all the blood flow to the brain and heart, right? Because that's what I've got to do to keep you alive. And when that happens, it slows down digestion. And so if you think about it, to stay alive, you don't have to digest. You don't have to reproduce. You don't have to detox. All of these things, when the body is just trying to survive, trying to keep you alive, that's the last thing it wants to do, is to digest, to reproduce, to detox, all those things. That's not its priority. And if you think about it, the world we live in today, there are so many stressors that the body perceives as danger. Stressors that are mental, emotional, environmental. And so, all of these continually stressing out our body, our body's going to shut down those non-essential functions. And like I mentioned earlier, those are the digestion, reproduction. There's so many women today that deal with fertility issues, the ovulation issues, detoxing. We're so toxic. We're trapping toxins and heavy metals because our bodies just doesn't have the energy to filter out the amount of toxins that we're exposed to. I hear low sex drive, low hormones. All those things, right? Just to keep you alive, they don't have to work. And so I think you get my point that, the world we live in today, there's so many of these symptoms because our bodies are in that stressed out fight or flight state. So a good practice, as I get back into digestion here, making sure that we're in that relaxed and calm state. Before you eat, 3 slow, deep breaths before taking your first bite of food. This is really going to set that whole digestive process up for success. Another thing is saying grace is another way to help switch over your brain, right? From whatever it's stuck and stimulated and focused on, to try to really switch it into that relaxed and calm, parasympathetic state. Another thing I will mention is you've got to rest to digest, right? That's ideally when we're resting, when we're sleeping, we are getting parasympathetic, hopefully, if we're sleeping well, right? That's a whole nother topic I could talk about, but we need rest to digest. So one of the things I want you to think about is giving your digestion at least a 12-hour break every night. So I want you to think about today, look at the clock when you eat your last bite of food for the day. And then tomorrow morning, look at the clock when you eat your first bite of food. Just make sure you've given yourself a 12-hour break. And I know there are lots of, fasting, diets that are out there. And I'm not talking fasting for weight loss. I am strictly talking fasting as a means to give your digestion a break and let it catch up. So think about a 12-hour break every night. Okay, so that's just the first place digestion goes wrong, is that we have to be calm, we have to be relaxed, we have to rest to digest. So digestion, as I alluded to, it's a north to south process, and it starts in the any ideas where it starts?
Mouth.
Further north.
Eyes?
Even further north.
Brain.
Yes, it starts in your brain. And I kind of alluded to this on the last one with, right, switching our brain over into that parasympathetic. So digestion actually starts in the brain, where it's triggered by the sight, the sound, and the smell of food. So if you think about that, when you're seeing the food, maybe you're hearing it cook, you're smelling it. All of that is triggering your brain. So when this happens, this triggers this begins the production of saliva in the mouth that someone mentioned earlier. So for that to start, we've got to have the brain, right? Brain's got to get the trigger. So think about it. If we're not focused and we're not in that parasympathetic state and we're on the go, I can't tell you how many times, I have a bad habit of eating or, eating and reading, doing something else. Do you think my brain is really turned on and focused on the fact and is really like tasting my food, smelling my food? So when that doesn't happen, think about your mouth is really the first place that food begins to be broken down. And that is because we've got to have saliva being produced in the mouth. Well, that doesn't happen, right? If up here further north is not working because that's where it gets the trigger. So food then is the first place that it begins to get broken down or digested. And do you know which macronutrient that's particularly true for? So we have proteins, fats, and carbs. So any guesses on which one predominantly starts breaking down in the mouth?
Carbs?
Yes. Awesome. Yep. Carbohydrates. And so the reason for that is carbohydrates are your quick energy source. And so when we talk about quick fuel, carbohydrates are quick fuel. And that's because carbs are the first to digest. They actually start digesting and breaking down in the mouth. And so when you start digesting, you start getting those nutrients into your cells. So carbs are what starts breaking down first in the mouth. And if you ever think about, craving sugar, I mean, this is kind of why when your body is needing energy, you get those cravings for something sweet. And that's because, again, sugar is that quick fuel. It'll start breaking down in the mouth and, gets into your body really, really quick. All right. So continuing this process, this is why it's so essential that we really chew and chew our food. I know I sound like my grandmother. I remember hearing, you're just wolfing down your food, like sit there and actually chew it. And, she was right. Chewing your food thoroughly ensures that you're going to have better digestion of that food. Those enzymes in the saliva break down the nutrients that really help pre-digest the food so that your stomach and your small intestines don't have to work so hard. When we don't really chew our food, this puts so much more stress down in our stomach and our small intestines. And we're going to talk more about that. So my suggestion, a couple things to keep in mind here, maybe you've heard this, but to set your fork down or your spoon down in between bites, that can help slow you down on eating. The other thing that I really like to stress is chew your food until it's liquid before you swallow. So if you sit there and hold your food in your mouth and you really chew it until it is a liquid consistency, it's going to feel a little weird. And that's going to make you realize that we really don't really chew our food. Like we have teeth for a reason, and they're there because we should be chewing it until it's liquid and then we swallow. So not thoroughly chewing is the next place that our digestion goes wrong. So as we're following the process, once you swallow the food, it's going to pass through the esophagus, and then it's going to hit your I know I'm challenging your anatomy here. So after it goes down your esophagus, it hits what organ?
Stomach.
Yes, perfect. Your stomach. And this is where the digestion of which macronutrient begins. So any ideas? We've already talked about carbs being up in your mouth. So proteins or fats, which one do you think really starts digesting in your stomach?
Proteins.
Yes, proteins. Proteins start digesting your stomach. So this is why your stomach is designed to be the only, and I'm going to emphasize this, only highly acidic environment in the body. This allows your proteins to be properly broken down. It also kills any, I want you to catch this, pathogens that we may ingest. And the stomach also continues the breakdowns of carbs and fats. So I want to pause on this slide for a minute. there's a lot here. And for some of you, this may be new, hearing about stomach being a highly acidic environment. But things like viruses, bacteria, those things should get killed in your stomach. Your stomach should be the most highly acidic environment in your body. It's your first line of defense. And I want you to think about not only what comes through, but passes through your mouth, what you ingest through your mouth goes down your esophagus into your stomach. But I also want you to think about your nose. Anything that you breathe in through your nose, it goes the same channel. Through your nose, back of your throat, right? Down into your stomach. So anything you ingest through your mouth, through your nose, anything you're breathing in, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, right? All of that stuff. Your stomach, if it's not highly acidic, that's when we start having problems, because that acidity level should kill pathogens. So let's pause right here, because I want to talk about how this goes wrong, because I know this may be really new, usually new for a lot of people. I know this was new for me, but I want to talk about a few symptoms here. So have you ever experienced maybe bloating, gas, or that pressure that's really high up under the ribs, like on your left side? That would be your stomach. Maybe burping or heartburn, indigestion. That's usually within an hour after eating. So maybe you have any ideas of what could be causing them?
I always attribute to like inflammation, but I have no clue.
So one of the things that, yes, you're right. So let's think about when your food is hitting your stomach and your stomach doesn't have enough stomach acid, right? So when it's hitting your stomach and doesn't have enough stomach acid, your body doesn't have the raw materials it needs to break down your food. And so what happens is your stomach, I know I get a little animated here, but it's like your stomach is churning, right? It's trying to break down your food, your proteins, your fats, your carbs, whatever you just had, but it doesn't have the gas to do it, right? It doesn't have the raw materials. It doesn't have the stomach acid. So it's sitting there churning, trying to break it down. And what's happening is that churning, that trying to break down creates pressure, gas building up in the stomach, because again, doesn't have the juice, the raw materials to do it. So it's sitting there trying. And this is where your food may stay in your stomach longer than it's needed, because it doesn't have the gas or the juices to break it down. So what happens then is that pressure builds up. And when that pressure builds up, that sphincter that's at the very top of your stomach, the very bottom of your esophagus, that pressure can push that sphincter up. And when that happens, the contents of your stomach come up and into your esophagus. And that's where you then feel that burning sensation that people will, refer to as acid reflux, or they say I've got heartburn, indigestion, all of those things, the burping, the belching, chronic bad breath is another big one. All of those are symptoms of your body not having enough stomach acid. And so many of you have probably heard, what do we do to relieve that when people have all those symptoms? What are we typically told to do to relieve it?
Take a Tums.
Yes. So pop the Nexium, the Tums, the Zantacs, the antacids. People are put on PPIs, those proton pump inhibitors. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, like that does not fix the problem and actually causes more problems down the road. If you go back and look into what these antacids were, how they were originally designed, they used to not be over the counter like they are today. They were prescription only, and they were very short term, like a month or two. And that was because it was just to help relieve the symptoms while the doctors dove in to figure out the root cause of the problem. Well, as you can imagine today, now they're over the counter. So I have clients coming to me. They're eating them like candy, which I get. I used to be one of those, to relieve your symptoms. And, I have some that are telling me, well, one wasn't enough. So then I was at 2. Now I'm at like 3 per meal. And over time of constantly taking these acid blockers, antacids, decreasing your stomach acid long-term is not a good thing. It's going to lead to more digestive issues further south, and which we're going to talk about today. So I want to give you a couple of things that you can do instead of using those antacids to help you, because really the root cause is not that you have too much acid, which is really what most doctors, what they're telling you when they're saying just go pop these antacids. The problem is that you don't have enough. And that's why we've got that problem building and we have what's coming up into our esophagus. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have all of our stomach acid that we have available when we eat. And I'll tell you, as we age, our stomach acid declines. Our stomach acid declines with stress. There's so many reasons why our stomach acid that we don't have enough. So first of all, remember how I mentioned chewing your food until it's liquid before you swallow? That's going to be helpful, because my number one thing that I'm going to tell you to helping with stomach acid is I want you to drink the majority of your fluids during the day away from your meals, away from your food. And I know that may sound crazy. I remember when I first got to school for nutritional therapy, I remember having a meal with our instructors, and it was so weird because none of them ordered drinks. And I remember thinking, okay, what am I missing here? Because think about it. What do? We sit down, we go somewhere, drinks are the first thing that they come and they ask us to take our order. And we're drinking lots of fluids. Maybe some of you who've been through different diets, I know I've done it all over the years, fill your belly up with all the liquids so that you don't eat as much. Well, let me tell you, when we have too much liquid in our stomach, we are diluting our stomach acid. And we need that stomach acid there to break down our food. And so if we're diluting what we already don't have enough of, we're going to have even more problems. So I want you to, first thing is get in a habit of drinking the majority of your liquids away from your meals. It's okay to just sip with your meals, but really trying to get in that habit of the majority of your fluids you're taking in away from food is really going to help with your digestion. The next thing you can do is apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar has a whole host of benefits, but specifically for digestion, bitter foods help rev up all those bitter receptors that we have along our digestive tract and tell us that food is on the way. Start making digestive juices, start making our stomach acid. So what I like to do is I like to dilute 1 or 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in a little coffee cup of water, maybe 4 ounces of water, and drink that like 15 minutes or so before meals. That really sets your digestive process up, tells your body food's on the way, start making stomach acid. The other thing I like to do too is sea salt. So this is one of my daily habits that I get all of my clients in the habit of consuming is sea salt. Now, sea salt is very different than table salt. So I just want to make that distinction. Table salt, throw it out, be scared of it. It is not the same thing as sea salt. So sea salt is the most natural form of what you find in nature. Think about it. You go to a spring where the water's coming up over a spring and it's falling over the rocks, grabbing all those salt crystals. That's what sea salt, natural, real salt is. And salt is full of minerals. So the real stuff found in nature, full of minerals. Now, table salt, they take the real stuff, they put it through a very high heated process, burns out all the minerals. You're left with just sodium chloride. And then they add back all this fake iodine to say, ooh, iodized salt, it's so good for you. Your body knows differently. So your body knows the real stuff found in nature. So if you're using table salt, throw it out, replace it with sea salt. So sea salt is actually a very crucial nutrient that our body needs. We actually do need sodium. We need the real stuff. So sea salt, why I bring that in for digestion is because of the minerals. So you need minerals to make stomach acid. Specifically, we need sodium and potassium. And so sea salt has sodium. It's the highest in the mineral sodium, but it has all the other trace minerals in there too, including potassium. And so in order to be hydrated, you need water, but water is going to follow sodium right into your cells. This hydration is water in your cells. So it follows salt follows sodium into your cells, and then potassium makes it stick. Otherwise, your water is just going in and coming out the other end. Like, you should not be peeing out all your water. Some of it should stick. And so I have found when people really get their real salt, sea salt, right, they find that they're running to the bathroom less because they're actually holding on to some of their water because it should not all flow right out. So sea salt, I tell people, start slow, just sprinkle a little pinch of sea salt in your water throughout the day, sprinkle it on your food. This is really going to help you get the minerals that you need in your body. It's one way you can get the minerals in your body that you need to be making stomach acid. Also, stress. I like to mention this. Stress depletes stomach acid. Stress also burns through your minerals. So the more stressed out someone is with life in general, the more stressful lifestyle you live, your nutrient patterns are usually going to be really low. And so you need to be taking in even more nutrients. And so again, another reason why I really stress the sea salt is just another way to get nutrients in during the day. If you're someone that suffers with that indigestion or that heartburn when you're laying in bed at night, one of the things that you may have been told is to like keep yourself elevated so that you don't feel that indigestion. The other thing is, think about if you lay like on one side or the other, think about what side you lay on. We want to make sure that you're laying on your left side at night because your stomach is on your left side. And we want your stomach to stay lower than your esophagus. Because if it's the opposite and your stomach is higher than your esophagus, it may, you may get that dumping from your stomach into your esophagus and feel that indigestion at night. So just something to keep in mind if you struggle with that, with sleep, with that indigestion, check what side you're sleeping on and think about, maybe trying out the left side to see if that helps. Okay, so there was a lot there with stomach. It's a big area that so much goes wrong. And I've just kind of touched the surface of stomach. So let me keep this going. And we're going to come back to all of this again at the end. So when the contents of the stomach have reached the proper acidity level or pH level, they're ready to move further south. And where do they go after the stomach? Any ideas?
Intestines?
Yep, small intestines. That's right. And I have a lot to say because there's a lot that can go wrong in the small intestines. And we're going to talk about that. But this is where they're bathed in enzymes and bicarbonates. So keep in mind that when the contents reach the right acidity level, then they go down, right? So think about when we don't have the right acidity level, what's happening when food is not at the right pH level. We're going to talk about what can go wrong. So before that, though, I want to touch on these two organs. Then I'm going to put this like all together for you in the whole process. So, because I feel like these next two are something that a lot of people have questions over. So bile, maybe you've heard about bile. Bile is produced in which organ?
Gallbladder.
Close.
The liver?
Yes. So bile is actually produced in the liver and then stored in the gallbladder. And this helps break down the macronutrient. Which one have we not? Yeah.
I think to remember to give this to you.
Fat.
Sounds good. This is for
So
you.
my favorite F word. So bile is produced in the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and helps break down your fats. And then the breakdown of all nutrients continue until they're ready to be absorbed through the walls of the small intestines and travel through the bloodstream as needed through the body. So I want to talk about the liver and gallbladder because this is a big one here. And I'll tell you, I don't have a gallbladder, so I could geek out all day long on the whole liver gallbladder thing of the whole why, what went wrong, and why people are having their gallbladders taken out, why we're having gallbladder attacks. But I just kind of want to hit some of the things high level, because maybe some of you out there are struggling with gallbladder attacks, or maybe you've had your gallbladder removed. So first of all, if you've had your gallbladder removed, I'm guessing that you probably were not told that you would need any ongoing support. You probably were not told that you would have trouble digesting fats, and that you can live without your gallbladder. And, you know, you can live without your gallbladder, but you're probably not living optimally because you're not digesting your fats, which are needed for a whole host of processes in the body. So not having the gallbladder affects the digestion because we need bile support. So let me talk about when you don't have your gallbladder. Remember I talked about it was the holding pattern, right? So bile is coming from the liver over into your gallbladder, and it sits in the gallbladder. It sits in the gallbladder then until it gets the trigger that you've eaten fat, and it needs to push out some bile to break down the fats. So when someone doesn't have a gallbladder, you know, that holding pattern is missing. So now what happens is the liver is attached directly to the small intestines. So without that, what I call regulator of the gallbladder, the liver is constantly producing bile, and it's just trickling into the small intestines at all times. And that gallbladder that we had before was kind of the faucet. I could talk about, like, you turn it on, like if you need a lot of bile to break down like a lot of fat, like if you had a really fatty meal, it's kind of like the faucet on high, release a lot of bile. And then, you know, if you didn't have a meal with a lot of fat, then, you know, the faucet would be on low, or maybe it wouldn't even be on because you wouldn't need the bile. So now with the liver attached directly to the small intestines without a gallbladder, it's that constant drip. There's no regulation of the bile. And so it becomes really hard for someone to really digest their fats because they may or may not have the amount of bile they need to break down their fats when they eat them. And I do see a lot of people that have no gallbladder and are struggling with metabolic health. Metabolic health would be blood sugar regulation, whole nother topic of discussion, but regulating blood sugar with food, you've got to eat fats. Fats keep blood sugar steady. So as you can imagine, if someone is eating them, but they're not digesting them, to their body, it's like they're not eating them. They're not getting that benefit. And so fats keep blood sugar steady. So people that generally don't have a gallbladder, I have found they struggle with blood sugar regulation because their blood sugar is going up every time they eat, even if they're eating fats, because they're not digesting them. And so there's definitely support that is needed to help. So again, something that no one tells you about with, you know, the importance of needing to digest fats. As it comes to gallbladder attacks and or gallstones in the gallbladder, which is why most people have their gallbladder removed, I've come up with several things that I believe is kind of like the why. Why does this happen? And so I'll share the possible reasons of why I think someone develops those gallstones in their gallbladder becomes infected or sludgy or diseased. So the first one is bile quality. So remember we talked about your liver makes your bile. And so if your liver is making good, healthy bile, it should be free flowing. If the liver is not making good bile, it's referred to as like sludgy bile, viscous, very thick, not free flowing, not healthy bile. So as you can imagine, when this bile is coming over from the liver into the gallbladder, it may be sludgy and not healthy to begin with. The other thing is, think about someone who is living a low fat or eating a low fat diet. And I'll tell you, coming from growing up in a household, even at a young age, my mom was on that low fat diet train. Like everything was low fat because they scared everyone of fats, right? So even at a very young age, it was all very low fat in my diet. And so if you think about it, when someone's not eating fats, do you think my gallbladder was ever getting exercised? I mean, my gallbladder would have never gotten a trigger to ever need to release bile if I'm not eating fat that needs to be digested and broken down. And so when you think about it, the gallbladder is kind of a use it or lose it thing, kind of like with exercise, right? Like if it's not getting exercise and not getting the trigger that it's got to release bile, it just sits there. And then think about if that bile that is sitting there that came over from a liver that's not healthy and it's sludgy and thick and really viscous, it's going to sit there and it's going to start creating gallstones and become diseased and infected. So I always tell people it's one of those things where you use it or lose it. And that's actually part of when someone's having gallstones, helping them get rid of the gallstones, a big part of diet. And we got to use it, right? We need to start implementing some fats, but it's about the right kind of fats that are going to be easier to digest so that we can start getting the gallbladder to work again. So I say all that. The problem generally is it was never really the gallbladder. The gallbladder is what will have the symptom or like let off the red flag. The dashboard light saying check engine. So your gallbladder starts having all the symptoms, all the signs, those gallbladder attacks. But root cause of what's there, of why the gallbladder was having the problem, I will tell you, it's always the liver. Anyone that's got gallbladder problems, you've got to go to the liver. And when we just take out the gallbladder, that diseased or not functioning liver is still there. And the problem just builds. And then, I see people with it leads to more and more issues. So we need good liver function to make sure that we can digest our healthy fats. And if you think about it, our fat soluble vitamins are vitamins A, D, E, and K. So if we can't digest our fats, those fat soluble vitamins, we're going to have trouble digesting and we're going to be deficient in those fat soluble vitamins. So a couple things for healthy liver that I like to recommend. I have a lot, but I will tell you bitter foods are great for the liver. Things like grapefruit and ginger and lemon, apple cider vinegar is good too. Dandelion root tea is kind of one of my favorite things. If any of you are into drinking herbal teas, dandelion root, make sure you get the root. Dandelion root tea is a great herbal tea. Things like milk thistle. But I'll tell you the number one thing, and because I know I have an audience of women here, and that's really who I work with is women, protein. You gotta eat protein. And most of us women, we just don't eat enough protein. So protein is needed. For every process in the body, all your organs, all your processes. And if you think about it, your organs they're made of proteins and they need protein. So just to give you a guide, and I know this is going to sound crazy, 100 grams of protein per day, minimum is like a good place to start. If you're not hitting 100, just try to get 100 in per day. But usually I tell women it's most likely, like ideally, we want 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So, if you ideally weigh 150 pounds, like that's your ideal body weight, that's how many grams of protein you want. As we get older and age, it is the most important macronutrient of any to help our bodies, because we've got to keep up that muscle mass. We've got to keep our organs healthy. So protein, I will tell you, your liver will love you for the protein. I had mentioned before the apple cider vinegar with digestion. I think it's a great habit to get into doing that first thing in the morning for liver health. So warming up, some warm water and putting like a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in there. You can put in a drop of honey. You can put some lemon. You can put some sea salt, and just having that as a warm morning drink. It really starts waking your liver up and trying to get the bile flowing and get it moving. It's also great for blood sugar. Like there's so many benefits to apple cider vinegar, but I think that could be a really good morning routine. Okay, so I know I talked a lot about that liver. Let's finish this process, and then I'm going to kind of put it all together for you. So once the foods we eat are digested to the extent they can be, they enter our intestine, or what we call our colon, and that gives us one last chance to be recycled before the remaining waste is eliminated through our anus as stool. Figured I'd say it because I know nobody ever wants to throw out that word, but so your colon is so important. We have to have open elimination pathways for toxin removal. And I mentioned toxins earlier, like when our body's stressed out, that detoxification process, it takes energy. We just don't do it. It is mentally and emotionally stressing on the body to carry around toxins and to let toxins recirculate. So if we're not pooping every day, absorbing all those toxins, that's the whole point of going, guys, is we've got to get that waste out. And so when we just recirculate, we're going to feel really crappy and you're going to have poor moods. So really pooping, like we've got to be going at least once a day. Like that is really where I start. And yes, we're going to talk about poop. Your poop is meaningful. It means something. And so, yes, I feel like I'm the poop lady. When I give these talks, everyone always giggles, like we're talking about what it looks like. It's so important though. And, talking with if you have younger kids, helping them to understand. I realized that, once my kids were out of diapers, I didn't even know, are they pooping every day? Have I told them that's something they should be doing every day? And if they're not, there's a problem. We need to talk. So you're constipated if you're not having at least one bowel movement a day. And so I have this little chart over there on the right side of your screen that you can see what's called the Bristol stool chart. That kind of tells us, what does your stool mean? And so the top, there's like type 1 all the way down to type 7. And you can see type 1 up there is really what I call, when we talk about like transit time, it's like how long has it been in your digestive system, in your colon, in your digestive tract. So there's like quick and there's slow. And so towards the top up there is what we call slower transit time. Generally, these are people that are more constipated. It can be because they're dehydrated too, because we've got to have fluids to get everything moving through the system. A lot of times people that live very sedentary lifestyles, they're sitting all day long. They don't get a lot of movement in. It can be people that are malnourished or like chronic dieters. And this is something that most people don't think about, but again, my background, I've done it all, right? I've done all the chronic dieting. I've done the food restriction. And when, like I mentioned, your body needs nutrients, right? For energy and to live. And so a very stressed out body, when you don't eat enough, when you don't feed your body and you're not taking in enough food, what happens is your body is going to hold on to the food you do eat. When you do eat, it's going to like slow it down because you're already going to have a slowed down digestion anyway, because it takes a lot of energy, but your body is slowing that down because it's like, oh my gosh, nutrients. And it's going to try to pull out everything that it can find because you're in a very nutrient deficient body. So it's purposely slowing that down to try to pull out whatever it can get. And when it does that, not only is it pulling out the nutrients, but it's also pulling out moisture. And so that slowing down can lead to then hard to pass stools, constipation, because of just what's going on, by nature. So when we have a slowed down energy rate, a stressed out body, we're in fight or flight, our body's conserving energy. And again, digestion takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. So does pooping. I mean, that's part of that digestive process. And again, we need minerals to make stomach acid, to make digestive enzymes, to make this all work. And so it can lead to what you see at the top there, types 1 and 2, which is harder to pass. When you look further down, like number 6 and 7, those are what I call quicker transit times, meaning they haven't been in your system as long. A lot of times there are reasons why your body is trying to purge something out really quickly. A lot of times it's food sensitivities. I will tell you, food sensitivities to me, depending on what we're eating, a lot of times we have food sensitivities because of broken digestion. I don't believe that we were put on this earth to be allergic to real food. I think there's things in our environment and things that relate to they break your digestion, and that's what leads to allergies and sensitivities. And I see it all the time. When we heal and seal and fix digestion, the stuff gets better. So when you have that quick transit time, it hasn't been in the system long enough to really pull nutrients out. So I see the same problems with constipation as with loose stools. They're both problems. Both of them lead to nutrient deficiencies because you're not getting the nutrients in. So that's how the digestive, I should say, that's what your poop, ideally what you want. Because I always get asked is in the middle there, like a number 4. I always tell people it's smooth, it's connected, it's easy to pass, it looks banana shaped, snake-like, whatever you want to call it. That's really, ideal poops. And then for fun, I threw out there sinkers or floaters. Do you want your poop to sink or float?
Think.
Yes. So we want sinkers. So when my kids were younger, I would teach them this and high five them if they had, sinkers. Now my kids are teenagers and I'm embarrassing, so I can't talk about that anymore. But floaters, here's the thing. Floaters indicate that you're not digesting your fat, because when you're not digesting your fats, they just come out in your stool. Because really you should be digesting your fats, breaking your fats down, getting those nutrients to your cells. Well, if you don't, they just come right out in your stool, and it can make your stool more buoyant. So if you notice like waxy, shiny stools, a lot of times that's a sign that your fats are not being digested and they're coming right out, and it's making your poop float. I don't worry about it if you have a floater every once in a while, but like the majority of your time, you want everything sinking to the bottom, because that's an indicator that you are digesting your fats. And one thing I just like to show, just 'cause I know I've been talking about like different functional tests. One of the functional tests that I do that shows a ton about your body is called the hair tissue mineral analysis test. And there are so many markers by understanding your minerals and your heavy metal toxicities that tell me about things like your liver health, your digestion, your adrenals, your thyroid, your blood sugar. And so this is an example of one of my clients that's in a very stressed out fight or flight state. And I can tell that because, first of all, if you look at sodium and potassium, remember I was telling you those are two minerals that you need for digestion. You can see how low they are on here. You need them for digestion, you need them for blood sugar, you need them for thyroid health, adrenal health. And when the body has very low levels of that, that's a big sign of a slowed down energy pattern, a struggling body. Same thing with that high calcium. So calcium is a mineral that you want in your bones. I do not want to see a lot of calcium building up in your tissues. When you have calcium building up in your tissues, that's a stress response. Body is signaling and pulling calcium out of bone, bringing it into tissues. You are hardening from the inside out, basically. As calcium hardens bones, it's going to harden your tissues. If your tissues become hardened, you're going to have trouble getting all of your hormones and things that are floating in your blood out of your blood and through your tissues and into your cells. That's where you need those hormones. So I hear all the time, and I see it a lot with women that have thyroid issues, for example. Maybe they're making enough thyroid hormone, but their tissues are so hardened and built up with calcium that they have all the symptoms of hypothyroid because their cells are not getting the hormones and using it. And so this is one example. This client here, before I even knew what her symptoms were, just by seeing her test results, I knew there was a very stressed out body. And her symptoms were constipation, low energy, bloating, heartburn, sleep issues. And really with different functional tests, like the hair tissue mineral analysis, we have a roadmap of how the body is performing nutritionally, which is, again, root cause of so many symptoms and health issues. And when we have a roadmap of how it's performing, we can easily design a plan to help address the root cause of just so many symptoms that are going on. But I told you I was going to put this all together. So I kind of want to put it all together into what can go wrong with this whole process. And maybe you've heard of leaky gut. And leaky gut really is an effect of what is not happening right further north. So I want to take you back to how we talked about this whole process works. So think about it. If your brain is not parasympathetic and you're not relaxed, digestive enzymes are not getting produced in your saliva. So it's not working. You're not breaking down food in your mouth. Food gets down in your stomach. Let's just say you don't have enough stomach acid now. So you are not breaking down those proteins and those fats. Food's going to sit longer in your stomach. It's trying to get to that pH level that is needed, which is what triggers it to go down into your intestines. But what happens is it may sit there longer than it's needed because it's trying to break down. And now what happens is, here comes the next meal. I can't put any more food in my stomach. So it's forced to go down into your small intestines before it's ready. It's not at the right pH level. So when it gets into your small intestines and it's not at that pH level is critical because that triggers, remember, your gallbladder, if you have one, to let off bile to break down your fats. It's also going to trigger things like your pancreas to release digestive enzymes. So when this food now is getting down to your small intestines, it's supposed to be broken down and be ready to just absorb through the walls of your small intestines and into into your bloodstream and your cells. But now what's happening is it's just sitting in your small intestines and process isn't working. So that food is sitting there. And I don't know any other way to describe it. I know this sounds really gross, but it's like it's rotting, molding. I mean, your proteins, they sit there and they putrefy, your fats rancidify, and your carbs ferment. So I don't know any other way to describe it. That's sitting there. It's just, they're molding, they're rotting. And so if you think about like moldy food on a bowl, you see the mold. I mean, that's what is going on in your small intestines. That is burning holes in the small intestinal lining. And when we have those holes in the small intestinal lining, that's what they call leaky gut. So now the contents of your gut, of your small intestines, are leaking out into your bloodstream. Well, this is not the way it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to have these undigested food particles leaking out into your bloodstream. So what happens is your body fires up, the immune response fires up. Your body's like, whoa, 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 foreign invaders. What is going on? That's not supposed to be there like that. And your body goes to attack those foreign invaders, those undigested food particles. And so you might notice things when I was talking about reactions to food. This is where people think that they have food sensitivities, and they probably do because of what's happening. They feel like they have the allergic reactions, maybe the watery eyes, the sneezing, all those allergy type symptoms. And because your body is going to attack those undigested food particles, I'm going to pick on something like Hashimoto's, thyroid issues, for example. When we have undigested food particles coming out, for example, that's gluten. Gluten mimics your thyroid. So the protein in gluten actually mimics the protein in your thyroid. So this is why, specific to Hashimoto's, when this is happening and your body goes to attack the gluten, those undigested gluten particles that are out there, it sees it the same as your thyroid, and it's attacking the gluten and attacking your thyroid. And so your thyroid's getting attacked. So if any of you are familiar with autoimmune diseases, those are really, your body's attacking itself. Your immune system is attacking itself. And depending on what your body's attacking, it's different for every autoimmune disease. But I work with a lot of women with Hashimoto's. And so just using that as an example, that Hashimoto's is your thyroid's getting attacked. And so I'll tell you, it's very much the same theory for every autoimmune. You got to calm down this immune response. When we're firing up your immune system to go attack, it's attacking something. Something's going to get attacked. And I will tell you, like, every time someone comes to me with an autoimmune type disease, first thing that goes off is leaky gut. We've got to fix the gut. And sure enough, you fix the gut, you heal and seal that leaky gut, which is working the whole process, right? You can't just seal the leaky gut without going further north and figuring out what's not working, because everything north comes south. It gets better. Allergies get better. Everything gets better. We were talking about food allergies, but I'll also say that seasonal allergies. So I used to be one that was deathly sick, spring, fall, when everything's blooming, everything's blowing around. Grasses, trees, I mean, you name it. I was always deathly sick. And I was someone that was doing allergy shots in each arm every week to try to control it. Well, I'll tell you, think about it. Same process, right? Through your nose is through your stomach. And I remember my allergy doctor telling me, she's like, oh girl, if it's your gut, it's your gut. Because I was like, why do I still have allergies? We're doing all these things. It's your gut. Well, let me tell you, she knows now. And she's even said this to me, like, you're going to run me out of business because I don't know how to fix the gut and you do. Because when you fix the gut, you don't have those allergy issues anymore. I have been off of allergy shots for, I can't even tell you how many years now, when I took some time and really focused on my gut. Because the same thing, right? It's not making enough stomach acid. I'm breathing in all these pollens and all this stuff, and it's getting past my stomach and getting down into my small intestines. My leaky gut, everything's leaking out, and that's firing up my immune system. So now I'm having that allergic reaction to all those foreign invaders, all those pathogens that are leaking out into my bloodstream. So you fix that immune response that's firing up. And, as we're heading into what they always call cold and flu season, I always like to mention that, 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your small intestines. And so really the only way to have a strong, healthy immune system is you've got to have a strong, healthy digestive system. Because if your intestines are not healthy, your immune system is not healthy. Biggest disruptor to your gut, your microbiome, is going to be, first of all, what you're putting in your body, your diet. And if you have a diet full of sugar and processed foods, the bad undesirable bacteria that's down in your intestines feeds on the sugars. And this allows the undesirable, the bad bacteria, to keep growing and thriving. And so we don't want to feed the bad stuff. We want to feed the good stuff. The next thing would be processed seed oils. So things like the vegetable oil from the store. You don't want any of the canola oil, vegetable oils, soybean oils, things like that. They are like sandpaper going through your digestive tract. They are rubbing it raw. They are causing inflammation to your gut, to your body. So definitely a couple things to keep in mind. I feel like it's a great time to talk really quickly about probiotics, because I get this question a ton. What are they? Do we need them? And, I'll tell you my opinion just from all the training I've done. There's so much into the marketing of probiotics. Probiotics are just bacteria. It's the good bacteria in your gut, and we want the good bacteria. But if you think about it, like historically, our ancestors didn't need probiotics because they were getting this in their diet. Historically, when they're like before refrigeration, we used to ferment food. That's how we kept it. And so we were eating fermented foods. And so we were getting the good bacteria in daily. We don't do a lot of that today. So when I tell somebody, a lot of times they hear, well, my doctor put me on an antibiotic, or now they're telling me to take a probiotic. That's actually a great thing if your doctor tells you that, because if you're on an antibiotic is wiping everything out of your small intestine. So, and large intestine, all the good, all the bad bacteria. So there's not a way to just take out the bad without taking out the good. So everything's wiped out. It's like the bathtub pulling the faucet and everything's going out. So we got to reseed the gut. And so I definitely think for sure, if you've ever been on an antibiotic, which who hasn't, you need to reseed your gut. There are so many on the market. I will tell you, it all comes down to understanding, just like understanding food, like what's in it. It's the same thing with supplements, and probiotics are no different. Understanding where the raw materials are coming from, the quality of that. Survivability is a big thing, because a lot of them, they're not going to survive. You want one that's going to get past your stomach acid and down into your small intestines. There are food-based probiotics, soil-based probiotics. I mean, there's so many. And then understanding, like, what was that manufacturing process like? Because so many probiotics, they're dead in the bottle when you get them because of this high heated manufacturing process it's been through. Or maybe they're alive, but they got to make sure they stay cold and, the whole way until they get to your house. And so, the process it takes to make it and to get it to you really, really is important too. So if you're looking for a probiotic, I will tell you, the only way to really know what bacteria strains you need is really to test and test and do a stool test, a microbiome analysis to know. Otherwise, you are guessing. So I tell people that if you're guessing, my best recommendation is to rotate, because I have seen people that keep taking the same probiotic forever, and they build up really high levels of maybe that is a good strain of bacteria, but it's like anything. It's got to balance, right? Your gut's got to balance. We need all these diverse strains of bacteria. So if you're just taking in one kind all the time, you might be building too high of levels, and that can cause dysfunction in your body. I see that a lot as I help people and do tests. And just to show you, this is an example of like a functional microbiome analysis. You can kind of see down there in the center bottom where it says like keystone species. You can kind of see like this person has a lot of these really good species and they're low, like they don't have them. And so part of that is into the whole picture of what else was going on in their gut, but it's really the only way to know exactly what probiotic is for you. And so I'm usually not in the camp of just generically telling people to go take a probiotic, because again, you're kind of guessing. So with that, I want to open it up if there's questions out there, if we have a few minutes. I understand if you guys have got to go and got to get back to work. If you need anything, I will just say my website that is on the screen there. My website is also on the top of that worksheet. Feel free to reach out. You can, if there's anything I can help you with, or you have questions, through my website, you can contact me. I do discovery calls just to talk about, your struggles. Is there something I can help you with? I also have a blog out there on my website, a lot of articles around digestion. And so there might be some information out there that might be helpful for you. If you're struggling with energy, you can grab through my email, just sign up and I'll email you. I've got a little guide for 3 daily habits to increase your energy. I am not a quick fix type of practitioner. It's all about our daily habits of things we do day in and day out that are either building our bodies up or they're contributing to depleting our bodies. And so there's 3 habits out there that I feel like, when you do these consistently over time, they're going to help build your body up, which helps increase your energy. So with that, I thank you for listening, and I'm sure you probably have questions. So feel free to just jump in, ask away.
I just had a quick question about, you said the large intestine, or it was called something else on your handout at the very bottom.
Oh, or the colon?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I just really wanted to say thank you. This information was really helpful and eye-opening. I think a lot of the women on these calls are super high performers, high stressful jobs and industries. So this was really eye-opening, and I want to thank you for your time. And for everybody on the call today, this is a step into, Tara and I are also leading a mini women's retreat, which is going to be held in November. So more to come, but I hope you can reach out personally to Kara Ball and Carrie. I will make sure that they have your information so they can all subscribe to all the amazing information that you're sharing. It was really eye-opening, and it seems as though it all stems from the gut. And I love how thorough you were through the whole process. So thank you. And Tara, I don't know if you have any closing remarks you'd like to share.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Carrie. Again, I don't know how I'm in my mid-40s and I still don't understand my body. So this was extremely eye-opening, and I appreciate your time and sharing all your knowledge with all of us today. And everybody that's still on the call, thank you as well. And I think Jen will send out the recording with everything. So we appreciate you being here. Thank you, Carrie.
I just have a quick question for Carrie. Carrie, with your website information, do you do like quick, well, not want to say quick, but consultations first, or with folks, or maybe I missed that in the very beginning of your introduction.
Yeah, so I do lots of different programs with people, and so that's where through the website you can request a discovery call, because I just like to first and understand more about what someone's dealing with, just to make sure we're a fit to move forward, and then what that can look like. And so understanding a lot more about the person will help me understand, and share more about what it can look like to determine if it's a fit to move forward.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. This is great as I go to my GI doctor's office on Monday. So this was right on time.
Perfect. Yes, I've heard so many different things. And in fact, it's interesting. I actually work with a GI group here locally where I'm at. And, the GI doctors even tell me, they're like, a lot of this stuff, like, we've never learned before, which is kind of interesting.
I believe it based upon, being an advocate for yourself in your health journey. And I believe it just listening and working with a few of the doctors. I'm all like, who's not talking to something's amiss. So, so thank you, Jennifer, and for putting this on. This is really informative. So, I'll be reaching out, Carrie, but I appreciate this information.
Awesome. Yeah, glad it was helpful.
All right. Well, everybody have a great rest of your week, and I will do a follow-up email connecting you with Tara and Carrie, and sharing the link to the video that we've now have, and I'll upload it on YouTube as well. So have a great rest of your week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.